There is a moment before every great storm when the winds quiet down, when the air stills and even the smallest creatures seem to vanish. This stillness is not peace. It is not the resolution of conflict or the end of danger. It is the breath that is held before the world exhales in upheaval. July 7, 2025 was that breath, that moment. Not loud, not violent in appearance, but powerful beyond measure. The breath came loud, not violent in appearance, but powerful beyond measure. For those with open senses, it was unmistakable. For those deeply rooted in distraction, it passed like any other day. But make no mistake, the earth remembers. The sky remembers, and so does the soul. The question is, do you? Human beings are often waiting for signs, yet when a sign arrives without drama, they overlook it. When thunder doesn't split the skies and fire doesn't rain from above, they dismiss it as ordinary. But the final sign was never meant to be theatrical. It was meant to be pure. A moment so deeply aligned with divine timing that its impact would not rely on a spectacle, but on stillness. It was not sent to the eyes, but to the awareness behind the eyes. It was not heard by the ears, but by the spirit beyond sound. And that is why many missed it. Because humanity has become conditioned to search for truth in noise, not in silence. This day, July 17, 2025, was the final invitation. Not an announcement of punishment, but a call to awaken before the window closes, before mercy gives way to consequence, before time shifts from possibility to judgment. And that call did not come from a distant voice, but from the deepest space within. Some felt it as a tension in their chest, others could not sleep, as if their being was alert to something they could not name. Some wept without understanding why. These were not coincidences, these were inner confirmations that something eternal had reached out to touch the temporary. There is a sacred principle woven into the fabric of existence. Before the rising comes the pressing down. Before new life emerges, the seed must die. Before clarity comes, confusion must break apart what is false. The final sign came as that pressing force, the pressure not to destroy, but to refine, like a sculptor's hand carving away what no longer belongs. Not to injure, but to reveal what was always hidden beneath. For those who allowed themselves to be still, the pressure became clarity. For those who resisted, it became chaos. The sign does not change based on perception, but its fruit depends entirely on your response. The nations of the earth have long been given chances. Warnings were sent through prophets, through calamities, through the quiet voices of those who still carried wisdom. But every warning was received with less reverence, with more arrogance, with increasing indifference. The final sign then was not a louder voice, but a clearer mirror. Because when a soul will not respond to sound, perhaps it will respond to reflection. And what did the mirror reveal? That we have built empires on fear, institutions on greed, and societies where truth is not cherished but traded, where the sacred is not honored but marked, where peace is spoken of but rarely pursued. This is what the final sign was showing. Not a prediction of the future, but a revelation of the present. Yet in that revelation was still an offering. The offering of return. The divine does not force, it invites. The invitation was this: come back, not just to morality, not just to religion, but to alignment, come back to the source of being, to the root of all that is good, just, and pure. The sign was the hand reaching out one last time, not because God had grown tired, but because the cycle of time had reached its pivot. There comes a moment when the soil must yield fruit or be deemed barren. That moment has arrived. But not all is lost. The very nature of a final sign implies that action can still follow. The door has not been closed, it has been marked. Marked with urgency, with clarity, with light. There are those who now see with new eyes, who walk not with fear but with purpose. Because the sign, while final, was not a sentence, it was a summoning of the remnant, a gathering of those who still choose truth over comfort, who still choose sacrifice over ease, who still choose the eternal over the temporary. You must understand this. A sign without movement is meaningless. To see the river and remain thirsty is not the river's failure. It is the refusal to drink. The sign was given so that hearts would turn, so that vision would return, so that humility would awaken again in the hearts of people and leaders. It was a call for nations to stop and see that no throne, no missile, no currency can stand against the weight of divine timing. And that time has arrived, not as a thief in the night, but as a whisper in the dawn. Those who truly understand what happened on that day are not speaking louder, they are walking quieter. Because when truth is revealed, it humbles. When the eternal breathes upon the earth, the wise do not shout, they bow, and in that bowing they find clarity, direction, peace. The final sign was not meant to cause panic. It was meant to draw the wise out of hiding, to stir the sleepers into rising, to bring back the sacred path before it vanishes from view. So you must ask yourself, did you feel it? Did you sense the moment when the air changed? When the invisible hand turned the page of history? If not, be still now, because the echo still lingers. It has not vanished. It is waiting for those willing to pause, to listen, to respond. This is the hour. This is the silence before the storm. But it is also the moment to realign, to root yourself deeper, to release what cannot pass through the fire of truth. July 7 was not the end, it was the unveiling. And what you do with that unveiling will shape what comes next. Let your response be worthy of the invitation. Let your past become a light for others. For though the final sign has been given, the journey has only begun. There is a difference between those who wait for signs and those who recognize them. The ones who wait expect thunder, lightning, and divine interruption. But those who recognize a sign are the ones who see a deeper message in silence, in patterns, in the mirror that truth places before them. On July 7, 2025, what came to the nations was not just a signal from above. It was a mirror. A mirror doesn't shout, it simply reflects. And this reflection wasn't just for one man, one city, or one religion. It was for all humanity. It was the final gift, not of spectacle, but of sight. And what it revealed was both sobering and sacred. What do you see when you truly look at yourself, not in the physical sense, but in the essence of your actions, your motives, your values? What happens when nations do the same, when they look not at their wealth, armies, or influence, but at the spirit that drives their choices? The mirror placed before humanity on that day was crystal clear. It showed the emptiness behind many ambitions. It showed the cracks in the systems we worship, the falsehoods in the traditions we defend, and the hypocrisy in the moral standards we impose on others. But the mirror did not shame, It simply revealed, and in its revelation was an invitation to awaken. The mistake many make is believing that a divine sign must bring immediate destruction if it is serious. But true love always gives room to turn. A final sign is not punishment, it is preparation. It is not a verdict, it is a chance to reset before the verdict comes. And that was the essence of July 7. The nations were shown not what they could be punished for, but what they had become. The nations were shown not what they could be punished for, but what they had become. And more importantly, what they still could become if they chose humility over pride and light over darkness. But the mirror is uncomfortable. Most do not want to see themselves without filters. And nations, like individuals, hide behind ego, behind their flags, policies, ideologies, and histories. But none of these could protect them from the clarity of the mirror. That day brought a silence that pierced the noise, a stillness that exposed the shadows. And while the earth did not split open, the veil between illusion and reality did. For those who were willing to see, it became impossible to return to blindness. The mirror revealed that we have not outgrown the ancient mistakes. We have only given them new names. Greed is now economic strategy. Arrogance is now national pride. Deception is now diplomacy. And spiritual decay is now freedom of expression. And deception is now diplomacy. And spiritual decay is now freedom of expression. And deception is now diplomacy. And spiritual decay is now freedom of expression. But behind these names, the soul of humanity trembles, because somewhere deep inside we know we have traded eternal principles for temporary comfort. And the final sign came not to accuse us, but to give us a final window to remember. Remember what? That truth is not a trend, that justice is not something that can be postponed forever, that the divine does not speak endlessly without requiring a response. The mirror showed that we have delayed change long enough. We have ignored too many smaller signs, brushed aside too many internal alarms, and hardened our hearts against too many cries. And now, what remains is not endless patience, but a final moment of grace. And in that moment, each person, each government, each institution has a decision to make, to respond with denial or transformation. The mirror has no favorites. It does not flatter, it simply reveals. It showed the rich and the poor, the rulers and the ruled, the spiritual and the secular, all under the same light. Some turned away, others wept, but those who truly understood did not react with panic, they responded with surrender, because they saw not just judgment in the mirror, they saw potential. The potential to shift, to return to wisdom, to rewrite the story that was once headed toward collapse. So, unto this day, they are not the ones they were before it all. We are not the ones they were before it all. We are not the ones they were before it all. The presents do separate us. The two superpowers we have entirely misunderstood. The relationship that we vie the other so strongly. This is why the final sign was given in stillness, not in wrath. Because the transformation that must come is not external first. It must come from within, from the unseen roots of conscience, from the places where policy cannot reach and money has no value. The sign was calling nations to introspection, to confession, to realignment with laws that were written not on paper, but on the heart of the universe. The laws of compassion, of justice, of truth, of reverence for life and the sacredness of the soul. Some mocked the idea of a final sign. They said nothing changed, the world continues, but they did not understand. The greatest shifts happen beneath the surface. Just as an earthquake begins in places the eye cannot see, so does divine alignment begin in the unseen. And just as a seed breaks open underground before it sprouts above, so did the sign begin a breaking that many cannot yet perceive. But those who are quiet within know. They feel the fracture between the old way and what is coming. They sense the urgency, not born of fear, but of awareness. The mirror does not disappear, it remains. But the longer it is ignored, the harder it becomes to see. Because the heart, if not softened, becomes stone. The conscience, if not followed, becomes numb. The final sign was not given to force change, but to invite it one last time before change is forced upon us. And those who respond now do so not for applause or recognition, but because they understand that the time of delay has ended. What comes next will depend not on who shouts the loudest or who builds the tallest towers, but on who kneels the deepest, on who is willing to be honest, on who can admit that we cannot save ourselves through the same systems that led us astray. The final sign revealed that salvation does not come through power, but through surrender, not through more control, but through letting go of the illusion that we ever had control to begin with. So if you saw the mirror on July 7 and felt discomfort, do not run from it. That discomfort was sacred. It was a sign that your soul is still alive. If you felt exposed, do not cover yourself with excuses. Let the light in. Let it heal what darkness has hidden. Let it guide you to become the kind of person, the kind of nation that responds to truth with transformation, not resistance. This is the hour. The final sign has been given. The mirror stands tall, silent, unblinking. This is the hour. The final sign has been given. The mirror stands tall, silent, unblinking. This is the hour. The final sign has been given. This is the hour. The final sign has been given. This is the hour. The final sign has been given. This is the hour. It will not move, but you can, you must, because this is not just about survival, it is about alignment. And only those aligned with truth will withstand what is to come. The window is still open. The echo of the sign still vibrates through the earth, through the spirit, through the conscience of humanity. Respond now before that echo fades into silence and the mirror turns into judgment. Respond, not because you are afraid, but because you are awake. Respond not to avoid consequence, but to honor the invitation of mercy that still stands in the midst of a world being shaken into remembrance.